Am I on the autistic spectrum is a question millions of people have asked about themselves, knowing that there was something about their personality and behaviour that they couldn't just put the finger on. Could the pharmaceutical environment or genetics be the answer? As numbers are rising in our children being diagnosed, we are all searching for answers as to why we are categorically different from our peers. As generations of us have no diagnosis ourselves, so could our gender, our obsessions, or our addictions, or our behaviours be contributing to our anxious or depressed minds? Could autism be the answer as to the laws of attraction? We are all on the spectrum. Science hasn't caught up yet to give us our answers. So what actually is the autistic spectrum, and where do I fit on it with my family? My name is Danielle Hampson, and I am a CBT integrative counsellor or psychotherapist. I work voluntarily with victims and perpetrators of domestic abuse. I work with substance misuse, sexual abuse, and I also work with a wide range of complex personality disorders. I have a special interest in autism. I'm here today to do a podcast, and I'm working with my colleague Amanda from Lifestyle Monthly.
Right, so hi Danielle, I'm Amanda Moss from Amanda Moss PR and Lifestyle Magazine. Thank you for your time today to talk about your new book. First of all, tell us the title and what it's about.
Okay, so it's Am I on the Spectrum? An Aspies Guide to the Autistic Spectrum. I'm on it and so are you. And basically it's for anybody who's questioning whether or not they think they might have some autism-like traits. Because I believe that we've all got these traits, even you and me, Amanda.
And, you know, so you believe everybody's got these traits. Tell us what the traits are.
Well, basically, people, the information that's out there, I'm not disputing the information that's actually out there, because the information that's out there is really helpful. I'm looking at other areas of autism that haven't been officially diagnosed yet, or haven't come down from PhD level, from the clinical areas into our doctor's surgeries and our autism surgeries. So the areas that I'm actually looking at are to do with our gender, our sexuality. I'm also looking at areas such as addiction. I'm looking at domestic abuse. I'm looking at complex personality disorders, and I use the word disorder because I think the word disorder is actually really negative. So I'd just say complex personalities, and these include borderline personality, bipolar. I'd look at narcissism because I believe that has a place on the spectrum, and I also talk about anxiety and depression. Because I believe that those are very, very strong indicators to people who have autistic spectrum.
Right. Okay. So you've obviously done a lot of studies about this. Why did you decide to write the book?
Well, I had this idea in my head for about 8 years, and I have 2 children who have a diagnosis, and I got to wonder, thinking, well, there's generations of us that have no known diagnosis ourselves, and wonder if we've actually contributed to the problem that is actually out there. And so I started to ask questions. I also retrained as a psychotherapist, and I started to notice patterns of behaviour in my clients, and a lot of similarities in behaviour that were those that represented key characteristics on the autistic spectrum.
Okay, and how long did it take you to write it?
Well, I started about 12 months ago, and I decided I was going to write a chapter a month, and I've more or less stuck to my schedule. And the book came out in January this year, yeah. By the time it was edited and everything, it came out in January this year. And it's kind of like a self-help book. I don't diagnose you. It's up to you to obviously self-diagnose with the information that is actually in the book. But I also decided, because nobody could ever explain it to me, what the autistic spectrum actually looked like. So I had loads and loads of questions 10 years ago. And basically, no one could answer them. I was told to watch a television programme. I was told to watch The Big Bang Theory and to go away and do my own research. And I did go away and do my own research. And what I've tried to do in this book is give it a colour code. So for each sort of personality trait, or for each things that are, I believe, that are on the spectrum that hasn't been officially diagnosed yet, I've aligned colours. So I think that's really, really important.
Cool. And what did you learn from writing the book?
It's hard work. And you've actually got to make sure that the whole thing flows. And I'm actually a dyslexic. So I was a late diagnosed dyslexic, which I also believe is on the spectrum, along with a lot of learning disabilities that aren't actually officially out there as a diagnostic criteria. So for me, as a dyslexic, it was really difficult. I got diagnosed when I was 46 years of age, which is a little bit late. So, I've already developed my own coping mechanisms and strategies. So writing a book is a huge challenge for somebody like me. And it's a huge challenge for anybody. But, I have to...
It's a huge achievement.
Thank you. But it's very difficult because you've got to keep rereading and rereading and rereading. And they say that dyslexic people overwork because they're so anxious to get it right that they overcompensate an awful lot of the time.
Right. How's sales going? Because you can buy it online, is that right, on Amazon?
That's right. Sales are going okay. Obviously, I'd love them to go a lot more, but obviously that's down to publicity. So I've got a couple of reviews out there. The book's strategically placed. So yeah, and I know you've obviously done some reviewing yourself for me in the magazine itself. So it all helps. It all helps.
No, everything helps, absolutely. So, and you say you've got 2 children on the spectrum as well. So how has it enhanced your relationship with them? Has it made things easier to to speak with them and
I think as a
them?
parent and as a first-time mum, you haven't got a clue anyway with what's going on, and it's all a bit trial and error. So my child's autism was food related, and so for me it was really, really difficult feeding was a huge problem. He's now obviously a lot older, and he's more or less sticks to the same food groups that he did when he was a toddler. But yeah, I found that I don't know any different. So as an autistic mum and as a mum with kids, as an autism parent, yes, there's challenges. Yes, there's days that are really difficult when they were growing up. But, I don't think it's any more different from parenting anyway. I mean, Amanda, you're a mum of 6. So, I should be asking you about parenting styles and, I mean, you're a working mum and, what you do is...
It'll take about 3 years to write a book on that. Oh, cool. So, have you got any plans to write another book?
I do. I do. It took me, as I say, I had this idea in my head for 8 years. And finally we've got it out there, and believe it or not, there's actually a lot more room for that's been created now to make another book. So I think I probably might do a follow-up. I've also got a few other ideas in other areas. So yeah, there will be more coming from me.
And do you think there's enough support in our country to help people who are on the spectrum, or do you think pretty much people are left to bumble along undiagnosed and without any support?
I think it's very oversubscribed. So as a parent with two children, the waiting time and the process to actually get a diagnosis was years. So my son had this from birth and had all these eating problems from birth. He didn't get a diagnosis till he was 6 years of age. My daughter, I keep getting told, come back, so that they're not recognising all the criteria. And I suppose that's probably why I decided to actually write this book, because there's quite a lot of criteria that hasn't been handed down yet from PhD level. And people are asking questions, and parents like me are asking questions because they're not happy with the answers that they're actually getting at clinician level. And that's basically why I decided to do this.
Right. That's good. And so what do you think people, do you need to be a parent to read this book, or is it just absolutely for anybody?
I wrote it for absolutely everybody, because I believe that since autism came out there a lot more on Channel 4 and on BBC, and there's programmes, we've got the Undateables, we've got celebrities coming out saying that they've got OCD or they've got ADHD, and people don't realise how it's all actually linked together. So I actually wrote this book in easy language. And when I say easy language, this is a very complex condition. It's a very complex state of mind, and there's lots of key players to it. So basically I wrote this in easy language so that we could all understand it. Kind of like Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. That was the kind of style to say that, hang on a minute, it isn't just in boys, it isn't just in men. There's up to potentially 6 generations of us with no known diagnosis whatsoever. We all are actually on there. It's where we actually all fit.
Sure. And do you think, there's a lot of fads, people like to talk about diagnosis. Do you think it's, how do you get away from people, because 30, a generation ago, 20, 30 years ago, this wasn't even talked about, heard of, and now children and adults are being diagnosed with all kinds of things that, do you think there's too much?
No, I understand what you're saying, and I think, yeah. I understand exactly what you're saying, and people will put a naughty child, oh, he's got ADHD, oh,
yeah, exactly. They want to label everything, don't they?
Yeah, no, this is not where I'm going with this. Basically you have to have quite a few of the traits to actually have a diagnosis. And there are people that are out there, and there's obviously various podcasts that are out there that talk about autism and the different diagnoses that are actually out there. And you can, as you quite rightly said, over-label. This isn't where I'm going with this. You'll remember when you were at school, and I know when I was at school, there was the brainy child, there was the sporty child, there was the child who was, and I hate to use these words because I was always classed as a bit thick or a bit slow. There was the child, the kid that was always like a wild lunatic. And it's because back in those days, no one actually had labels or diagnoses for them. And if this was, even though it was around, it wasn't at the forefront. And I think as more children have more complex needs, and as we get further on in science it's got the answers as to what we're actually looking for.
Right, good. So, what's been the general feedback from readers of your book? Anybody contacted you with?
Yeah, it's been. Do you know what? I'm really surprised. People are saying to me, "Wow, hadn't thought of that," or "Oh my goodness," or and do you know? It's really, really encouraging. We're in the middle of a pandemic at the moment. And it's, I'm going to be really honest with you, this is really difficult to promote a book. I launched my book at the wrong time, sadly.
No, actually, you know what? It's a really good time it's a perfect time to launch a book, because everybody's at home, people are reading, people are not going out, so it's the best time for you to be promoting yourself.
Thank you.
A lot of people I've seen on social media, they're ordering books on Amazon. You know, book sales are actually on the increase at the moment because people don't want to watch TV non-stop. So if this is, you know, you have got a sitting target at home now to tell them about your book, and it's absolutely perfect time.
Thank you.
Yes, you can't go out, do lots of interviews, and you can't go to bookstores and speak to people and managers and stuff like that. That's tricky. But in terms of getting to your readers, you are absolutely prime. It's a prime time for you to sell to your public.
Thank you. Well, I also, just on a different note, I also believe that autism is also in the laws of attraction, as to who we're actually attracted to. And I've written a chapter on relationships, and I haven't gone into a lot of depth on this. But I do believe that we're all attracted to certain character traits and certain characteristics. So empaths are attracted to people who might be, for argument's sake, quite bipolar. Or you might have a narcissist who is attracted to somebody who is very borderline in their personality. So I do have lots and lots to say about this, and I might subsequently do a follow-up book, but anyway, that's just on a sideline, just on a tangent there.
Well, no, that's really cool. That is excellent, and like you say, you've covered all aspects of the spectrum, and I think it's something that's not been touched upon.
Thank you.
In layman's terms, as it were. You're appealing to people who are going to get bamboozled with lots of scientific jargon, and I think that's very appealing for people. So it should do, and I hope it does do extremely well for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. So for anybody who's interested in actually obtaining a copy of the book, you can get it from Amazon, or you can download it in a Kindle, and it's available on amazon.co.uk and amazon.com. It's also available to purchase in a lot of good bookstores. You might have to order it though, but I'll leave that one with you. Okay, so it's out now and it's currently priced at $12.99. Thank you.